Hello, everybody. My name's Jeremy Gloff, and I am one margarita in tonight, and we're here to talk about Prince's fourth album from 1981, Controversy. Before we go on, thanks to all my Patreon subscribers. Thanks to everyone that has subscribed to the YouTube channel, and I have a panel of friends here that love Prince, and we're going to talk about his music track by track in depth. Let's go around the panel. I'm going to start at the top. Ann Fearman, tell everyone where you're from and a little story about your relationship to Prince's music.
I'm from Fredonia, New York, and my relationship to Prince is that I love him. And he's probably the only little man I could ever see myself with sexually. And when he screeches, as he does so much in this album,
yeah,
I had some problems driving in today. I was like, come on now, Prince. Come on now. It was just I'm super excited to talk about this album.
All right, we have Aisha here. First,
Hey.
Thanks for joining us. Welcome to the family.
Thank you. My name is Aisha K. Staggers, and I go by Aisha K. Staggers because I am a journalist. And there is someone else named Aisha Staggers, believe it or not, with that unusual name. I write about Prince a lot, as much as I can, and publish it as much as I can. But aside from that, my Prince journey started when I was 9 years old, and I heard the introduction to When Doves Cry on MTV when the video played, and I knew it was all over. That was it.
I love it. Well, thanks for being here, Jeffrey Dicker, returning, who's also on the Madonna panel. You're on two.
I'm double fisting.
Yeah.
Jeffrey from Los Angeles. My relationship to Prince actually started with this album. I was 5 years old, and I used to listen to the radio all the time. And anyone that's from Los Angeles that's out there would know that the radio station K-Rock, which is really world famous for playing alternative music, at the time, playing funk and R&B was like not their wheelhouse, and it still is not. But for some odd reason, they played the album version of the song Controversy. And I heard that song and was like, what the fuck? And it suddenly sort of made me realize that, like, even though I was only 5, I knew I didn't fit in. I knew I was a misfit. And I heard this song and was like, oh my God, there's other people out there that speak my language. And I've been a Prince fan ever since.
Thank you for joining us. Melissa.
Thank you for having me.
Hi, I'm Melissa. I'm from Akron, Ohio, and I have loved Prince since middle school. Now that I remember going back and hearing this song, but it didn't like stick out to me like this album until it got to 1999. But I still loved him and went back and listened to everything after that. So I love all of his albums equally. They were my children.
And I met Melissa at Danielle Vasquez's Purple Party in Ohio.
Yeah.
When Jill Jones was a guest. And I was there with Clark Brooks, who's also on our panel. Clark, are you with us? I see your picture.
Long ago.
I know that was long ago. I'm going to tell you all a funny story, and if Clark's here, he'll jump in. Jill and I pulled up in front of the venue, and I'm like, this is the headliner, like, and they're yelling at us we were parking, and the guy's like, Prince is already in there, that the headliner's already in there. And we're like, oh, if Prince is in there, like, he's no longer with us. That's a little
Reincarnation.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think I meant Walter.
That was a great night. I'm here in picture form, and as far as this album goes, it's a relatively short album in terms of how many songs are on it, but 4 of them were huge hits in my high school. So
cool. And Clark, you're also in Tampa, Florida with me.
Yes, I'm in Tampa. I don't know why I was muted early. I'm sorry.
Well, thank you for joining us. All right.
Thanks for having me.
We've talked about For You. Some of us, I don't think anybody loved it on the panel, did they?
I did.
All right.
I do, but not as much as others.
Right.
I enjoyed it, but as far as a first album effort, I think Belle Biv DeVoe did better on their first and only first album. And I got to interview them. So
And then we did the second album, Prince, which had some rockers on it. I remember we loved Bambi. And then last month we talked about Dirty Mind, which we all loved. And
love it.
It was definitely a turning point in Prince's career. He started to come into who he really was, which was undeniable with those leg warmers and bikini underwear. But Clark once brought up that Prince albums, we kind of feel like they go in sets of two, right, Clark?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they seem to, like when he was doing an album a year, it seemed like there were 2-year periods where he was kind of in the same mode. Like the first two albums seemed to go together. Dirty Mind and Controversy to go together. 1999 and Purple Rain seemed to be companion pieces.
And then I'd keep going with Around the World in a Day and Parade.
Yeah.
Sign of the Times and Love Sexy.
Right.
And then do we put Batman and Graffiti Bridge together because they're both soundtracks?
Yeah, I think they diverged a little bit after that, but
Yeah.
for a while there, it just seemed like there were two album little couplets all the time.
So here's the cover of Controversy. If you bought the LP back in the 80s, it came with a big poster of Prince dripping wet in the shower.
Ooh.
Yep.
I have a story about that poster.
Yeah, please tell the story.
Okay, so here I was 11 years old. I don't even think I was 11. I was like 10 and a half. With, after Purple Rain came out, Controversy and Dirty Mind were the first two Prince albums in the back catalog that I bought. And I found the poster in the Controversy album. Again, 10 and a half. So I obviously knew there was something about having a half-naked man on my wall where my parents could see was wrong. So I put it on the back of my bedroom door.
Oh,
I've heard that a lot.
So none of them could see it. And, people would come in my room and they couldn't see it. Well, one day my father came in about something for my mother's birthday and closed the door. And my dumbass had the mirror facing the door. So when he closed the door, he saw the poster. He snatched that poster off my door so fast. I didn't get it back till my parents were divorced.
Oh.
And that was when I was 16.
He didn't tear it?
Huh? No, he just took it and put it in my parents' closet. Same with the Love Sexy cover.
Oh.
Yep. Well, Love Sexy cover, my ex-husband threw that album away.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. He was mad
jealous
about
much?
that.
Throw away the sexiness of Prince. That doesn't
Right.
work like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Let me just say about this album cover. So I love how in the other albums, he's like, there are no clothes that are as regal and gorgeous as me. And then he's like, oh, I found something. Right. And he has like his entire outfit. I love it. I love it. But then come to find out he still has a naked himself in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cute.
So
Yeah.
Dirty Mind had the gritty black and white photo, but this one, you see the trench coat is purple, and he has the Rude Boy button. So the Rude Boy button's there. I love the back cover of the album because it has the newspaper ads. And
Have you seen the untouched photo of that?
No,
I think Alan Baileau, I don't know if I'm saying his name right.
Yeah.
He released a book and it has he was like the photographer in that era. Prince's hair was like filthy and his eyes were like crack red in the actual photo. That has been like completely photoshopped. But whatever they used for, because I had never seen it before, and I sent it to my friend, and I actually didn't even notice all those things. And then she came back with like a laundry list of like, oh my God.
Oh, wow.
Well,
I think I've seen
another Prince associate, I won't name him, but he told me that one day he was at a rehearsal and he talked to the wrong person, and Prince gave him that Controversy album stare.
Oh.
And apparently that's a look that he gave people a lot.
The Controversy stare.
Right, the Controversy stare. Should
Yeah,
hashtag that.
Yeah, he gives it to Apollonia in Purple Rain.
Oh, yes, he does.
Yeah.
I think Apollonia gave it to Sheila E. a couple years ago. So
Ooh, I think it was more than a stare.
don't serve that lemon cake.
Right.
Oh, the drama.
All right. So just a little side divergent thing. Through Prince, I discovered Joni Mitchell, and I'm a huge Joni Mitchell fan. And he has Joni's one of the somewhere on here. Yeah, right there. It's one of the newspaper ads on the back. I'm like, what's this Joni? So I have Prince to thank for introducing me into the world of Joni Mitchell. And Ann knows because we grew up together. You know I love Joni, right?
I do.
All those car rides where I made you listen to.
Yep. Yeah. Well, that's partly why I think I drove all the time, because then I would be the one that got to pick the music.
And speaking of unknown ex-associates, there's one I heard a good story about that Prince used to play Joni before bed every night. And this ex-associate was not very pleased with that.
Oh!
Feel like it was me. I think that I'm the associate, because that's how I felt too. Like we'd be in Jeremy's room and I'd be really awesome, and then there'd just be Joni, and then we'd have to talk about the lyrics, and oh my god, she had that wavery voice that I hate so much. Anyway, I'll save that for a Joni podcast, right?
So Ann, you drove.
I would actually join the Joni podcast if you'll go on, Ann.
They'll find me and kill me, though. I think so.
Ann, all those years you drove was just to avoid Joni Mitchell?
Yeah. Well, all of your music, mostly, much of your music. But I did get into the Pointer Sisters.
But I had to suffer
But I was
Cohen.
for avoiding Joni Mitchell. I feel like I've lived my whole life trying to avoid Joni Mitchell.
And you'd never want to drive with me.
No.
I don't listen to Joni Mitchell when I drive. But oh my God. Mary J. Blige. All the time.
Yeah.
I love Mary J. Blige.
She's great.
One of the best concerts I've ever seen.
Not that Joni Mitchell is not great, but
Joni Mitchell's in my top 5, but so is Prince.
Yeah.
Okay, so with Dirty Mind, let's say the subject matter was a little not G-rated.
So
risque.
Risque. He had a song about doing it with his sister.
Right.
He met a bride on the way to her wedding, and she gave him a BJ. But with this album, it seems like the production value is a little bit higher. It doesn't sound as demo-y as Dirty Mind, and it seems like Prince had a lot on his mind this time around. So before we go into song by song, does anybody want to say just a general feeling about the Controversy album?
It's amazing.
Love
it.
Good.
With this album, I feel like Prince came into his Marvin Gaye moment. With the way that Marvin Gaye 10 years before he had a decision to make, whether or not he was going to produce the same kind of popular music he was doing or do a message album. And Prince, with this new record contract that he had with Warner Brothers, this being his second contract for the next 3 albums, had that same decision. Was he going to do something that would just create pop hits, or was he going to do something more with it? And I think that he chose the option of doing something more with it. It's also where he really established that Minneapolis sound that we hear for the next 4 years.
Yeah.
You don't get When Doves Cry without controversy.
And I felt in Dirty Mind, he was sort of playing around with the idea of establishing a manifesto. And then this album, he's kind of focusing those views of that manifesto a little more tightly and intently.
I feel like Dirty Mind planted a lot of seeds and then they really grew here.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Thanks.
I remember I had this job where there's a lot of Prince fans there, and everyone said, what album's better, Dirty Mind or Controversy? And everybody said Controversy. Like, I feel like this isn't an album that's a lot of people's go-to off the top of their head. People say Purple Rain. But throughout the years, I realized there's a lot of love for this album, and I would say deservedly so. Like, revisiting it today, I'm like,
yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
That's the general consensus. But like I said, when we did the playoff between Dirty Mind and Controversy song by song, I was surprised that Dirty Mind won in this group. Like, it was just, I guess, what songs you put against each other. I guess
Okay.
what matters.
I mean, and we'll get to this. There are a couple not great songs on this album.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I think that and they could potentially overshadow the great ones because they're so bad. But I do think that, if they were removed, right, then we would be like, this is a masterpiece. I mean, it's so
Right.
how do you not have sex to that album? It was so painful for me to be driving by myself, going 80 miles an hour, listening to Prince Get Off. And I'm like, what? This is not appropriate for me while I'm driving and by myself. It's such a sexy album, except for a couple things that we'll get to.
And
I
I
can't
wish
wait to
that he would
hear those opinions.
and I wish that he would have abandoned the rockabilly style a lot earlier, because it would save us from a couple of songs on this album
Yes.
and 1999 and some other albums in the 1990s. It's just like, dude, it's not working for you.
No.
And I love you to death, but that style wasn't working
um,
for him.
punk. And I was like, you're too cute for punk, Prince. You can't do it. And he knew he was too cute and he couldn't do it.
When we get to that song, I have a story about that, but we'll
Uh-oh.
wait until it comes up. So, yeah.
All right. So before we get to side 2 of the album, which is I feel is like we're kind of referencing a little bit. Side 1 opens with the title track. We have Lisa Coleman singing the hook on the chorus, and I feel like I'm doing my penance because I said something kind of snarky about Wendy and Lisa on the Sign of the Times podcast. And I'm trying to win myself back.
You'll never live that down. It's too late.
I want to ask them to do a discussion on their albums. I love their solo albums, the Wendy and Lisa ones.
They
But
want nothing to do with you.
They're gonna want nothing to do with me after hearing the Sign of the Times podcast.
Join the club.
Oh,
Oh,
That's all I gotta say.
oh.
love it.
All right. I believe my quote was, what I say? Just because you add a flute and a sitar to a song doesn't mean you've changed the world.
I won't ever say what mine was.
Oh,
Oh, come on.
No.
I love them. So F
no,
you
because
haters.
what I
with
wrote
a Z.
what I wrote was anonymous. But I did write a full-length article.
we'll talk later when we're paused. Yes, we will. Okay. So in this track, Prince is talking about the things that the press were saying about him. Is he black or white? Is he straight or gay?
Mhm.
I love that he's just, here we are in 2021 when their race is still such an issue and
Right.
gender identity is still such a discussion. For Prince to be talking about this stuff in 1981, when Prince was revolutionary, like his band was called The Revolution, Prince was
Right.
really revolutionary. Like talking about this stuff in 1981, he was a badass MFer. So
Yeah. One of the things that was a challenge, I think, when it came to how Black people looked at Prince at that time was in his interviews with The Passing, when he was telling Vanity's story and Jill's story as his own. I think that probably ruffled a few feathers. And that happened at the time that this album was being released, when he was saying he was half Italian and half Black. Well, that was that's Jill's story. That's not his. I think that ruffled a few people, but I think if you were anyone in a family like mine, you have the palest of the pale, people who look like Jill. And Jill and I talk a lot about life as Black women. And then you have people who are the darkest of the dark. And it didn't make a difference. But you also have to understand that at that time in 1981, for Black artists to really cross over the way that Prince wanted to, there had to be some kind of appeal, because, we live in a society now where racism is running rampant. But 1981, which I barely remember because I was 6, it had to be just as bad. And so those questions that he that he asked of people was really part of, I think, his mystique and trying to create mystique and also acceptance.
Great. What do the rest of you think of this song?
It's a top 10 favorite for me. I love the throbbing is the best way to describe this song. It's a throbbing, driving song. And I think he loved it a lot because it's like Kiss. It's one of the ones that he revisited a lot later and kind of played with the orchestration and different takes on it, adding horns and changing stuff. And clearly, I think it meant a lot to him too.
I love the message of the song. I love, like you said, the bass, and when it comes in with that line, whole message of the song. I think what caught my attention when I heard it for the first time was him saying the Lord's Prayer in the song. I was like, oh, like I learned that in church. He's saying what I learned in church.
Yeah, and for some strange reason, it fits. Like the song doesn't skip a beat; it just fits right in.
Right.
Was anyone as intrigued as I was by the part that starts with "People call me rude"? That is my favorite part of this song.
Yeah.
My absolute favorite part, because he really just like is talking about himself.
Right.
And loving it.
Well, about there being no race, like I wish there were no black or white. Like it's just we're all human.
I feel like he's picking up where Uptown, the song, kind of left off.
Yeah, that manifesto that he was trying to bring across.
And that's the thing, like and Jeffrey, you brought this up in your introduction. Where Ann and I grew up, if you were anything but preppy white people, you were treated like shit. So Prince kind of gave us a world where you could be different, whatever that meant. For me, it was being like a gay male. But Prince's manifestos meant so much to me because it gave you a view of the world beyond the horizon that you could see.
Right.
Especially on this album, these early Prince albums. So this meant a lot to me when I heard it. And
this album is the album where I feel like, I mean, he's been very sexual all the way through, but I feel like in this one, it spoke to me in a way that, you know, like that I recognize that Prince was someone that made sexuality cool. You know, like you could, like it didn't matter, you know, it didn't have to be a thing, and you can just fuck whoever you want. And I liked that message, you know. I just thought
and we did.
And we did. We took that shit to heart, Prince. I took that shit to heart. But, you know, like, that's the thing. Like, he was so, you know, and I think that's that song that, you know, that I wish that, you know, there was no black and white, wish we had no clothes, you know, like it was just this. And that I think is my favorite part about Prince. Because that thread obviously runs throughout, you know, all of his work. But I think it's real strong in this one.
It's a song of liberation, really.
Yeah.
It really is. And that's why I like that particular part of the song. It's like, you know, when I remember being in second grade and a teacher telling me that I was rude for speaking my mind. And Prince gave me that authority to be like, okay, thank you.
Jeffrey, what do you think of this one?
Sorry, I was multitasking. No, I mean this song, and then, you know, continue on to sexuality sort of gave me a reason to live when I was a child, because I knew that I didn't fit in. I knew I wasn't normal, whatever the definition of normal was. And this song and sexuality both gave me that approval to say, you can be you and it's fine. And if anyone's not on your team, fuck them. And I mean, if nothing, I mean, I'm so grateful to Prince for that, because I mean, and of course so much more, but I mean, that especially was just so helpful to me as a 5-year-old that didn't know like how to articulate, you know, why are people different and what do I do? Because I don't think I fit in this box, and I don't know how to express it, but he seemed to put it in words for me that was like, oh, okay. So I'm not wrong. It's okay, you know?
And can we say that The first two
Yeah,
tracks of the album, talk about a 1-2 punch right there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Clark,
Yeah,
are you saying something?
there's a quote, and I can't remember who said it, but there was a quote that was made after he passed where somebody said, "Nobody ever went to a Prince concert, looked around, and said, 'I don't belong here.'" And I think a lot of songs on these two albums helped lay that groundwork. It might have been Londell McMillan, but I'm not sure who it was that said that. But I think that's perfect.
Now, I would be the first one to admit I own all of his albums. I bought every one, even some of the more obscure ones, but a lot of them I didn't listen to because I'm just a collector. Did he continue a lot of these messages in his later work, or kind of let it go?
He became preachy. He became preachy. This is the thing that for myself made me really have a hard time with Prince was this period. I mean, you know, especially after Love Sexy was just all about like, this is what I'm into, and I want to put it out there so that you can explore it on your own. And then I felt that in his later career, it was like, you must do it this way. And if he hadn't started at infinity and then started reducing himself, I probably wouldn't have had a problem with it. Like Madonna, for example, she didn't start at infinity and started reducing herself. She started with nothing. So, but Prince started off so vast and just started getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And I have a huge problem with that. And I'm a very vocal critic of his later work because of it.
I actually agree with Jeffrey on that point, and I think that a lot of it, you know, people tend to want to say it's because he became a Jehovah's Witness, but was he really? Because when you talk to other people around him, I think it was Bria Valente who said that she was more into it than he was. I think that there was something else going on that kind of, I don't know, that just, I really think that law, even though, you know, he said he felt free from the record label, I think it was that loss of having that support behind him, that vehicle behind him to kind of push things through, really did a number on him. It's one thing to be an independent artist and have to do those things for yourself, but when you have a vehicle, a machine behind you, it does something else with your image. And I think what it became in some subsequent albums was him trying to get back to that first high of popularity that he really saw in those early years. And it's like what kind of stuff like what Mariah Carey does is, why is she competing with Ariana Grande? She's like 30 years younger. And that's kind of the thing that you see with Prince is that he then has all this other stuff to compete with. And while he's competing with it, he's not putting out his best. It's being left in the vault.
Yeah, I disagree. I think that he was always evolving and he was always moving on to the next thing. And like he was done with this stuff and he wanted to move on to something else. Was he preachy? I mean, some of the songs are more like that, but he was always had religion in all of his like albums. At some point, it's in there. It's the sexuality and the religion. And for me, the Rainbow Children list brought it out the most. But I think he continued on with his message. Like if you look at Lotus Flower, he has Colonized Mind, and he's talking about stuff there. So he's continuing on with that kind of message. But to me, it's that's what I like about him. I like that he talked about sex, that made it, you know, more comfortable for people to talk about it, or, you know, me and my friends, whatever. And that he also talked about religion and made that more comfortable. And then it kind of like coincided.
Melissa, did you notice the difference as he got older, how he like kind of was wiping the sexual part of himself, trying to kind of erase that?
Yeah, he with the Jehovah Witness stuff, I think he didn't sang different lyrics and change the words, you know.
I think that the lyric sexuality is how you go from sexuality is all you'll ever need to accurate knowledge of Christ and the Father will bring the everlasting now, to me, like breaks my heart. And in fact, I'm getting like teary thinking about it, because it's like, it is such a sad thing to me that someone could be so infinite and so vast and just shrink down to this little window of tunnel vision. But he's dead. It doesn't matter.
I agree. Oh, it's such a great disappointment. But again, this is why I don't have any heroes. They are all great disappointments because they're all human. But the religion one, because here's the thing. If I believe that he didn't really give a shit about his religion, then that tells me that he was choosing to be a drug addict instead of getting surgery that would fix his hips. You know what I mean? Like, because isn't that the story, right? Like, he was in so much pain and, but he couldn't get a surgery because you can't get surgery as a Jehovah's Witness because of
But he had it.
He had the surgery
in 2010.
Oh, really? God.
Yeah, because when he died, they found the scar on his.
Yeah.
So he was choosing.
The thing about hip surgery is that people tend to have both hips replaced. He had one.
Right.
He might have been reluctant to a second, which would explain further pain.
I mean, the thing that's so difficult about Prince was that, he also, explored as being as famous as you can be. And I'm sure that you get bored. I've seen interviews with Pink Floyd where they talk about, all they ever wanted to do is become famous. They made an album, Dark Side of the Moon. They became super famous, and then they hated every second of it because what are you supposed to do? Like they wanted to continue to create, but then they're no longer able to do it on their own. They're now getting input from the label about how they should create their art. And whereas before it was they had carte blanche to do whatever they wanted. And I'm sure, with Prince, having 30, 40 years beyond that, he was probably over it, Yeah. So, you can't really fault him in a sense for going backwards, but on the same note, it's still disappointing in my view. And
I always felt that there would be one more classic Prince album. Like, I always felt like it's coming.
There's probably one in the vault. And it will not be titled Welcome to America.
Hey. Yeah, I like Artificial Age. I think that's a classic one. It's a newer
I just wish
classic.
we knew where Jeffrey stood on some of these things.
I know.
It's
Crazy, isn't he?
I like to keep people guessing.
He's bringing the levity tonight.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
Yes, he is.
So speaking of
I
sexuality,
wasn't going to call it levity. I was going to call it something else. But
Oh, you've taken over Anne's levity.
I love it. Come on in.
Speaking of sexuality, well, first of all, I'd like to say that did Prince make the Lord's Prayer sound a little sexy?
You know what? I was going to say that, but then I was like,
I
it's
hate to
mixed
say that.
company. I don't want to offend people.
Right.
I definitely had like a Madonna, like a prayer, moment happening.
Right.
Where I'm like, you can recite the entire Bible to me if you want to, and I will do whatever you want. But yes, he definitely, because otherwise I'm like, well, that's a turnoff for me generally. You bring up religion and I'm like, nope, shut it down. But he made it so, and he brings it up like that. He does it a couple of times in this album, doesn't he? Or am I just imagining it?
I was a Muslim child back then.
Oh, okay.
So that was like my introduction to the Lord's Prayer. I've since converted, but that was like my introduction to it. And so, I knew that better than some of my own prayer.
Yeah.
Now, Aisha, you did not convert because of controversy, though, did you?
No,
Okay.
no, that was a personal choice made in adulthood. But
I just had to make sure.
It doesn't come up often, but whenever I do tend to recite the Lord's Prayer, I do it in that cadence.
Yeah.
That's in the song. So, yeah.
I actually used the Lord's Prayer in a book, and I couldn't remember the words, but I listened to Controversy, and I was like, there it is.
Right. Oh my gosh, that's
So Prince turned us all into Bible quoting
yeah.
Right.
citizens.
So
he had some awesome screaming in that song too.
Oh my gosh. Again,
Are we on to sexuality? Is that
like flustered by it. I'm flustered by the album.
Anne's flustered.
Flustered.
Okay, well, moving on to sexuality, the tracks go right into each other. It's basically the ultimate 1-2 punch. This is another manifesto. Sometimes the song's called something but doesn't live up to it. I'd say that the song "Sexuality" lives up to the title. Anne, any thoughts on this from your drive today?
I'm just like giggly, like post after I've listened to the album, like I'm just giggly and tired, you know.
You listen to Jack You Off and Knew Me Baby too many times.
The album was like playing on repeat, and it's such a short album too that I was like, this song is familiar. So I did listen to like the album like 6 times in a row. So I felt like I was intimate with that album quite a bit, which was why the terrible songs are so shockingly bad, right? Compared to the sexy time songs.
I'm wondering what songs are terrible.
I don't want to guess.
Come on now.
We'll get there.
We'll get
Really, Jeffrey?
What?
Really, Jeffrey?
I'm already there.
I like those songs. I know the one. I like those weird.
I mean,
songs.
Ronnie Talk to Russia. It's got to be Ronnie Talk to Russia.
They're absurd. They're absurd. Those are absurd songs. Wait, I have everything I want to say.
Back to sexuality.
Right.
Okay.
Prince is talking about the new breed. We need a new breed. And I feel like he's once again talking about the uptown where it's just a higher level of existing and thinking. And,
Yeah.
I was sold. Like, I wanted that too. And Prince's
Same.
music gave you, a voice for that.
It's more of a movement. Stand up, organize at the end,
Yes. As someone who's literally at a hotel to be counting ballots for her labor union's election, that's why I'm here at this glorious space. I was like super moved by that, and I don't think he was talking about like workers, labor unions and things like that. But
No.
I
think he was talking about, rights, about equality and stuff.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I saw it as the antithesis of the civil rights leaders that had been there in the 60s and the ones that lived to the 70s, like Jesse Jackson, like Ralph Abernathy and those people, and being like, no, we need new blood. We need young people to stand up and organize and get this movement going. And if that's true, he's talking about the older Generation X people who we really, and being a younger Generation X, we really kind of never took the mantle and just kind of let all that stuff pass us by. And now here we are looking at these younger generations do this. But that's what I saw with that line was that, and in being 10 again, at the time that I first heard that, that's what I received from it. Was that he was telling these old leaders that it's
time for a new breed, right?
Time for new leaders. Yeah.
See, that kind of ties into the later albums too, because when he did the Baltimore show, that's what he said. We need the youth to come forward. We need new ideas and stuff like that.
You know what they did? I got to hand it to this younger generation.
Yeah.
Hell, the fuck yeah! Like, what did we do in the 90s? Like, we had Earth Day.
We had nothing really to fight for. I think
we had Lilith Fair.
We had Lilith Fair.
Palooza. It's terrible.
The first generation of post-integration babies, we were just kind of happy to be there.
I think we were terrible. Very bad as our parents, but
they didn't call us slackers for nothing.
Trauma, right?
Aisha,
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Jeffrey. Go ahead.
I was going to, since we're talking about sexuality, and I love to throw in my bootleg Prince concert knowledge.
Yes.
In the 3121 residency, he changed the lyrics of this song to call it "Spirituality is All You'll Ever Need," which to me is a big.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree.
And he brought up that specific chant we were just talking about in the Rainbow Children that makes an appearance in that album as well.
He did.
Yes,
He did.
and yet he forgot what he was doing.
Yeah.
He got hit in the head with that guitar solo at the end of that song. Because it is pretty.
Anyway.
That guitar solo is pretty great.
I love
Linda,
I love our panel.
you
I
have
love our
to
panel.
take Jeffrey out.
So in the beginning of this song, I noticed that with his
It's like,
screams in the beginning, I think that was the beginning of his signature, that was the
Yeah.
beginning here. That's when he started doing.
Yep. Loved
There's
it.
also the video where he starts to strip at the end.
Oh,
Have
Look
you
at
ever
my,
seen the video? He's
Be right
taking
back.
because he's fully clothed in like this
Let me
tuxedo
just-
stuff. He takes off the tie, takes off the vest,
Yeah.
starts to take off the shirt behind this really bad backlighting.
It was the
There
80s.
is one. There is one element in this song that makes me cringe a little bit, and it's the spoken word stuff because it sounds like stuff that some punk bands were doing at the time. And I remember thinking,
thank you. That's my point. Like he
Yeah.
has some songs on here that he's like having some sort of weird punk thing.
It's
And
very
I guess
punk.
that he thinks, like, because it was cool. Certainly, punk was very cool.
Yeah.
And in a way,
and it didn't come off as
that's a lot of
authentic from him. So
I like it.
it's like
I do like
listening
it.
to Billy Idol, right? Like going
I
from
actually like
punk
it.
to Billy Idol, which I love Billy Idol.
What's an AccuJack?
That's
Oh,
that
you
was my
know.
question.
Oh, you know.
Right.
you know,
Is it like a sex toy?
Yes.
don't act like you don't have 5 AccuJacks.
I don't.
Wait,
I don't own one
down
sex.
I don't know what an AccuJack is, but I'm going to Google it.
Yeah, Google.
What
it.
is it?
I don't think they make them anymore.
If somebody said, go get an AccuJack, Jeremy, you're the person I would call.
What?
Is that to pump up your penis?
I don't own one
Go
sex
with it.
toy.
AccuJack. Ooh. Hmm.
Maybe it's a breakfast cereal.
I always wanted someone to explain to me the thing about the tourists with the pocket
Doesn't say.
cameras. What does that have to do with anything?
Well,
It's
I think
basically-
he's referencing people who observe life rather than live it. They look
Okay.
at life through a pocket camera. They're
Yeah.
just tourists. Yeah, and he made derisive
Gotcha.
remarks about tourists throughout his career. He referred to people as tourists.
I think there's even I
Got
think that
you.
it's even on the album cover mentioning tourists.
Yeah.
On the back of the front booklet.
Let me take
Because I've been trying to decipher that for the long because it comes after the AccuJack line. And so I'm like, what does one have to do with the other?
He's
Oh,
basically just
right.
dissing. He's dissing everybody in that moment that's not part of the new breed. He's
The
basically
mainstream.
telling all these people to like stand up and organize. Instead of
Yeah.
living life through a pocket. Looking through the camera and
Live a real life and not an experience. Like
yes,
an
he definitely
artificial
predicted social media.
no
What the
flash
cameras
again?
what's the cameras even look like in 1981?
I know. Like an AccuJack.
Like you'd never be able to fit it in your pocket.
That's what I'm thinking.
You might have if you were wearing like certain pants from back then.
But did he invent the disposable camera?
in camera.
You had to wait days to see what the pictures looked like. I remember that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you remember Photomat?
Wait, socks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh. So
And
I
then you
guess,
go-
before we move on, no one knows what an AccuJack is.
Melissa was looking it up.
Apparently,
You know what?
it's an adult toy.
It's a I actually looked it up. No, it's a
Sex toy.
electrical sex machine that you plug into a wall.
Here it comes.
And they had one for like women where you could actually sit on it and have like it had like
Oh.
an electronic penis.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Do you have one, Jeremy?
I looked at it. I looked it up when I was like 12.
Mark!
I wanted to know what the
They
man
don't
was talking about.
I don't even have any pornography on my computer.
Oh.
Like, I'm so boring. Come over and look. There's nothing to find. Okay.
And that was before Google, okay?
Yeah.
So I had to do a lot of research
Oh,
at the
Right.
library to find out what that was.
I bet Wendy and Lisa didn't have an AccuJack.
Thank God for older male cousins
They
because
don't want a dick.
Oh,
How come
my.
bootleggers aren't putting those out, I wonder?
Melissa's like, I'm done with this panel. Okay.
Purple AccuJack.
Sexuality. Do we have any thoughts on the song before we move on?
One last thing. Is this the first one where he sort of drops the falsetto for most of it?
Yeah.
that we know of? I think it is.
Prince Cher voice.
Sure.
And Jeremy, I think you should tell the audience what the Cher voice is. We on the Madonna panel, and it's like the funniest thing ever.
Okay.
Take it away, Jeremy.
So on Madonna's second album, and I have to credit my friend Val Valone, remember her, Ann, for pointing out that during Madonna's first couple albums, she goes into the Cher voice. So, gonna dress you up in my love all over your body.
I told you it'd be worth it.
So,
Wow.
That is funny.
I was called a couple weeks ago. I was called a blonde Cher.
Oh my God! You need
Woman
to
at a party was like, "You look like Cher." I'm like,
you need to do the
"That's
Cher
the first
voice.
time."
You have no plastic surgery.
Yeah.
No.
You look nothing like Cher.
In
Thank you.
disguise, I can see
Thank you.
it in your eyes.
But that was before Madonna took singing lessons.
That's the
And
worst
now-
thing she ever did.
And
I
now
like to-
she just always sounds like Cher.
She has a terrible voice. Madonna is terrible. Moving on.
She sounds like some of those. Never mind.
I gotta turn my camera off for a second.
Freaking me out. He's giving women sexuality.
He's
Older
singing on the Yankee Jack.
Moving on.
She sounds like a few women that we know.
Moving on to back to controversy. Oh, I gotta catch my breath. Are we having fun? I'm having a good time.
Yeah, I told you
Yes.
he's singing on the Yankee Jack. He turned off his camera. He can't catch his breath.
The AccuJack in action.
He looks like he's having fits of delirium.
I'm done. This is the final episode of Phonogenics. And I'm just-
Can you imagine my 12-year-old eyes when I?
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
Ah,
So the album begins with a 1-2 punch of controversy and sexuality. The
And then
final
it's
track
Sexy Time.
on side 1 is now. Too bad Joshua's not here because he loves the ballads. You all
Yeah.
know that I was never a big fan of the ballads.
I love this ballad.
I love
Oh,
the
this
ballads.
is epic, though. This is an epic ballad.
epic ballad, though. But
This
I
is
did
like-
immediately think of Josh. Immediately, I was like, "Oh, he's gonna love this."
"Do Me Baby" is the song, which was
I think this is the most popular one from the beginning of his albums. Like when this came out, this one, I don't know what it hit on the charts, but I think this is the most popular ballad.
I don't think it did
Thus
very
far.
well.
It was huge in my high school. For
Well, it
sure.
is now.
It was big because Melissa Morgan did a cover of it
right.
that was #1 on the R&B charts.
Wait,
And
which-
that's actually the first time I heard it. It wasn't until I went back to Prince's catalog that I heard his version, which was the original. But her version was a #1 R&B song
How
in
is
the
her version?
80s. Huh?
How is her version? Is it good?
Her version is really good. It's really good because she's a woman who could sing. It'd be different if it was someone who could not sing
No,
doing it. Right. But her version, right. Her version was a woman who could sing that had this very tender voice, very sensual, very low and kind of musky sounding.
I'm gonna have to
So
go listen to it.
It really worked. And you know, there's the controversy over this song. Who came up with the bass line for it? Was it Prince or was it Andre?
Oh,
I thought it was more. I thought there was a Morris. I had heard a long time ago that like he basically created the time so they could have the song.
That was for Party Up.
Yeah, that was for Party
Oh, that's
Up.
Party Up.
Right,
Okay,
right.
Yeah.
my bad.
We
Do
talked
Me,
about that already.
Do Me was something that Andre and Simone had been working on
it's
It's a
definitely.
hot song.
for a girlfriend that he had at the time.
It's a showstopper of his as far as any ballad he ever performed at any time during any of his
Okay.
concerts.
Yeah, he sang
Yeah.
the shit out of it every time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it actually is. It's the kind of ballad that makes me really question his decisions when he wrote Purple Rain.
What do you mean by that?
Aisha, you have
Yeah.
the most leading things that you say, and then you're
I
like,
don't like Purple Rain. I really despise that song.
Oh.
It's like if I have to listen to it, I'm kind of like I watch the movie and I'll listen to it, but if I put on a Prince album, I'm not listening to that song.
Oh.
Do Me
Yeah.
Baby is a really it really is a standout ballad considering his albums to that point. He never did a ballad like that, and that was that emotional,
Right.
until he did International Lover on 1999. And it just really, I mean, it really shows you the breadth of his voice, because he's hitting those high notes that would almost scare Mariah Carey. And they're just, I mean, he just delivered the song so well. Even the outtakes are good.
Yeah.
It sure seems like he didn't know how to end it though, because the ending seems very strange.
Yeah, that I agree with. That I agree.
Well,
with.
I think he got off and then was over it. Like all guys would be in that position.
Right. Is there anything left?
Don't say stuff like that when I'm drinking.
Oh, sorry.
I don't think I ever made it to the end of the song. So I don't know how it ends. I always
He
went
hits
over
that last high note. It's like, next song.
That last high note is just like one of the best Prince screams ever.
Yeah, it really
Yeah.
is.
Right.
And then fade it out. That would have been so nice.
So, Anne, I have to ask, on your infamous car ride today, was this song also doing it for you?
I'm telling you, I could have pulled over and gotten down on all fours and just sort of it was very animalistic, which is why some of the other songs are so disappointing, you know, because he just got me there, and then did some weird stuff that you're like, oh, you're a serial killer. I see, right?
That would be Annie Christian. Okay.
Now, can we all agree that I'd say I appreciate Do Me Baby. Like, even though I'm not a huge fan of the ballads, I appreciate that it's a masterpiece. Like, I recognize that. Can we all agree that side one of Controversy is flawless? Because I feel like it's pretty much.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think side 2 is also flawless, but I guess we're gonna get in some fights coming up.
No, I'm just gonna explain why you're wrong. That's all.
Okay.
Jeremy.
I'm just going to tell you why I'm right.
Clark,
Jeremy,
you have
there are a
something?
lot of people walking around who began their existence to that song "Do Me." That's all I can tell you. So
Yeah. Sure.
a lot of people got pregnant to that song. So
Yeah.
I can say that was none of the three of us, of me and my siblings.
Same with me. Probably like a Carpenter song or something terrible like that.
I bet my parents were listening to cool music.
Oh.
I'm sure they were.
Joni Mitchell.
Oh,
The Hawk. My dad, the Hawk.
Yeah. No.
Parliament
Neil Young.
Funkadelic.
I'm listening to cool music too.
I'm telling you, Parliament
mine were
Funkadelic.
not.
Well, that's cool music. Yeah.
All right.
My mom liked Elvis.
all right, flip the album.
Do we want a 5-minute break before we go over to side 2? Let's take a 5-minute. We'll refill our drinks.
All right.
We'll be right back.
I agree.
All right. We are back, everybody, with Controversy side 2. And it seems from our
It will cause
discussion about
controversy.
side 1 that there's going to be some controversy about side 2 and our opinions here.
I just was tired, but now I'm feeling rejuvenated.
Side 2 opens with a song called Private Joy, which
Oh, yes, it does.
the song's I feel like it's a bop. I've always liked this song.
It is.
I love it.
And it's much better with Prince doing it than it was with LaToya Jackson covering it.
Ooh.
Oh, I didn't know
Well,
Latoya.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. So now
Yeah.
that makes sense because when I first heard it,
It was
I
LaToya.
felt like I needed to put on a unitard and some leg warmers and like start working out, right? Like sweating. I felt like that, you know. And so it makes sense because that is kind of the image I have for LaToya Jackson too. So maybe I was.
She was wearing those headbands, remember? Having the
Yes, and
workout
she's
gear.
so skinny too, like you know. But she'd be like working out too with those.
She wore that dead
arm
head.
weights and stuff. Yeah. So that was initially, and I was like, do I hate it? Do I want to skip it? And then I just kept getting pulled in. Like he squeals in this one. He squeals in this one, and I
Yeah.
was like, oh damn. Apparently, I like men who squeal. That's crazy.
And Latoya wore that damn headband to the We Are the World, didn't she? If I remember.
Yeah, she
right.
did.
Everywhere.
Remember, she was selling those, the LaToya Jackson headbands, the braided headbands.
Okay, so before the 1999 discussion, everyone needs to get a Latoya headband to wear for the podcast.
I think you'll have to send him to us.
Oh, all right. So how's everyone
Okay.
feel about Private Joy?
Love it.
Love it.
Love it.
I love it.
Do we all
I
love
love
it?
I love the little Valentino interlude. It seems like something you would hear in maybe an old 40s or 50s song. And I love it when he calls back to eras that aren't necessarily his. It
Yes.
speaks to his.
Anybody asked, you belong to Prince.
Oh my
You
God,
belong
to
right?
Prince.
Like the feminist in me would have been like, in real life, but in Prince world, I'm
Yeah.
like, yes, I'm yours. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
he was feeling himself on that song.
Yeah.
He really was. He's
Yeah.
feeling himself on this whole album, though.
He
Like,
supposedly wrote it for Susan Mooney.
Oh.
Okay, what is an orgasmatron?
well, that sounds like what you would get when you used
The
the
AccuJack.
The Accujack.
AccuJack, right? You get an orgasmatron.
There's in the movie Barbarella, basically they try and give Jane Fonda an orgasm to death,
Yes.
and that thing is like unofficially known as the orgasmatron.
Oh, okay.
And he was a big Barbarella fan,
Makes
as you know.
sense.
You're
That,
right.
yeah, that makes sense.
Was this his
Also-
first? Oh, go ahead, Clark.
Also, if you order the AccuJack from a late night infomercial, they throw in an orgasmatron for free.
right. No, it's a lot.
Was this his first like synth workout? Because I'm trying to think back. I feel like
Before
Section
Rick James stole his synthesizers.
right.
Well,
Right.
Controversy is more synth heavy than this song.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's such a good
I would love to know the order these songs were recorded in,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
because obviously they put it together, and they just sort of in a way you kind of envision in your head that he just recorded them, start to
In
finish.
order.
But I would love to know. How what the order actually was, because that could be opinion changing, knowing that like Ronnie Talked to Russia was the first song or
Oh my
last
God.
song. I'm just saying.
No.
It's such a bright song after Doobie Baby was so dark.
Right.
It's so bright, It's like
Joy.
sunshine.
It's like a joyful, yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's wake up the next morning. Let's go.
Yes. Yes.
And I just want to mention that I feel like the hooks are really good on this album. Like in Controversy, do not believe in God. Like there's some really solid songwriting on this album.
I agree.
Especially when we get to the next
Andy.
song, Ronnie Talked to Russia. Do we have any thoughts on Private Joy? Now, when this
Good
song ends, all these weird sounding guitars start to come into the mix, and there's kind of a machine gun sound, and
The
yeah,
Orgasmatron.
it's the Orgasmatron.
He just turned it
Yeah.
up. Yeah.
And as you all know, he recycled the guitar solo for the song Orgasm, which is on the Come album.
Yeah.
Right. Now, I'm getting the feeling that we all do not love Ronnie Talk to Russia.
Holy
I love it. What the fuck?
what the fuck indeed? What the fuck, Prince? So first of all,
He was trying to save the world.
he
Yeah,
decided
it's political.
Clash or something, right?
Wait, say it again?
The Clash. He decided he was going to channel the Clash or something and write this. Oh my God. I thought, and this is, if I had heard that song in any other setting, I would have assumed it was meant for like a skit, a joke song. Clearly, it was written as a joke. But no, here it appears on an album like it's actually a song that belongs with the other songs, but it doesn't. It's stupid. It's obnoxious. it is infinite. I mean, it's like sophomoric. I mean, I could keep going. There are so many words.
Well, see,
Okay.
as a 5-year-old growing up, I mean, the threat of nuclear war was like on the news, and it was just everywhere.
Yeah.
And I mean, the fact that like Prince, like even at least wrote a song trying to like save the world, I thought that was a great thing for him to do. Even, I mean, so already he's like informed my sexuality, and he's told me that there's a place for freaks, and now he's saving the world by telling Ronnie to not blow up the world. I mean, that's great.
Yeah. If
He
you
wrote my
follow
third
Jeffrey's-
grade letter. He wrote my third grade letter to the president. I mean, that's what I get from this song, is when they had us all sitting down and telling us to write letters to the president about making peace with Russia. That's what I felt.
This is a very like high school writing class. right?
It's like-
you know,
if-
and
if-
like he was a kid who was in a band, and he's like, I can't write poetry, but I can write songs, and he wrote this song, and it's terrible. It's
But
so
I mean-
bad. It's like
but I
something
mean-
I would expect to watch on that Canadian show,
It reminds me of like how, you know,
Rocky High or whatever. it's
the
called.
Doors, for example, would, you know, you could be singing along to their song, but it's basically like a song about like, you know, your friend just died, and you're like, but I mean, if you don't listen to the words, you're like, yeah. So here you have got this upbeat song, but it's got a really serious subject. And I mean, again, coming as a child, I thought it was great that he was like trying to save us, but.
I think
I mean,
That's
Ronald,
not shared.
Ronald Reagan didn't listen, and then you know how they paid him back? Tipper Gore starts with her parental thing.
The PMRC.
That's how the government paid him back.
If you follow Jeffrey's possible theory that they were all recorded and produced in sequence, maybe he's feeling himself going, I've tackled serious subjects. I'm ready to talk to the president.
You know what this reminds me of is the episode of the Golden Girls where
Yeah.
where the
I was thinking about
Yes.
that.
the head of Russia gets a letter,
Oh,
From
right.
Rose. but
They think it's written by a child.
They think it's from a 9-year-old girl.
That is sad that we all like
Yes, okay.
immediately thought of that.
We have a common memory, and yes, that is exactly what this song sounds like. It's just so, and the thing is, I love when musicians are political because I want to know where they stand.
Yeah.
Prince was tricky for me, but you know, like that, it's not the political thing. It's that this is like it's like he didn't even write it. It's so obnoxious and like punk. It's like a punk song, and the part of me that's punk goes, I love it, Prince, but I don't ever want you to fucking put it on an album, especially an album in which, in my mind, you've just been making dirty love to me, you know, and now you're like you've suddenly turned into a 14-year-old and you just learned to play a chord, and you know, you're like, whoa, mm-mm.
I just didn't like the whole sing-songy. Ugh.
Shit.
Yeah.
whole sing
It's not one of my
song.
favorites, but I
That's a
do
lot.
get the political
Right.
and stuff that was going on at the time with Russia and Reagan.
I love it. I mean, and I really love the line, Ronnie, if you're dead, before I get to meet you, don't say I didn't warn you. I mean,
Yeah.
come on. So great.
Yeah.
Isn't that the year that Ronald Reagan was shot?
Yes, which is then referenced like 2 songs later.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, right. And that's the other song I want to talk about.
Oh, Lord.
all right. Well, before we get to there, I think I'm kind of in the middle between y'all.
Okay.
I feel like
Yeah.
the song kind of goes with the newspaper headlines it's on brand for the album. It's only like 2 minutes long. So if he's gonna take a detour that's 2 minutes, I don't think I can handle more than 2 minutes of Ronnie Talk to Russia.
See, I think it works because it's 2 minutes. I think if it was a
Right.
6-minute song, it would be like, okay, this is ridiculous. But as a 2-minute
Right.
song, it's a nice little segue, I think.
Now,
I mean,
is there a 6-minute version in the vault? Do you think?
knowing Prince, there's probably 15 6-minute versions of that song in the vault. There's a blues version, an acoustic version, and then a version with like Jill Jones on the lead vocals.
And maybe a better song that he could have put on the album instead.
Yeah.
Do you think Wendy
I
Lisa
wish-
added a sitar to it?
I wish there was an instrumental because the guitar solo in it is fantastic.
Right. Yeah. Again,
Yeah.
I love it as a punk song, but the
Yeah.
lyrics are so not at all clever, or I don't think, you know, they're clever. Again, they're clever if you're in your, you know, your sophomore high school English writing class with your cool 30-year-old teacher who's really a pedo. Then yeah, this is probably cool. That's
Maybe he wrote it for, you know, elementary school kids to sing at spring concert.
maybe he did.
I'm
I
okay
sang
with
it.
that. Yes.
I'm
All
sorry.
right.
Yeah, I am sorry.
Okay, so let's move on. After Ronnie Talk to Russia abruptly ends, we go into the funk workout known as
Yes.
Let's Work.
Oh yeah.
Are we
Best
back on
bass
board?
line in the world. Best bass line ever of any song ever.
Yes, I love it. This is one of my favorite songs on the album, if not my favorite.
The best
too.
bass line?
The funk.
Best. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I think James Jamerson played some better bass lines for Motown than this song.
Mm.
Well, I think we were talking about Prince already.
I know, but even a Prince songs, I think there were some better bass lines in this. I like Let's Work, but I think Party Up is better. This to me always sounds derivative of Party Up, which is why I kind of just am like, I like it, but I'm like, I'd rather listen to Party Up.
I'd rather listen to Let's Work.
The rumor is this song was originally called Let's Rock.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I'm assuming that whenever the Controversy Special Edition comes out, we'll be hearing that.
Let's Rock.
I do have the 12-inch single of Let's Work that has like a really extended version. Right?
And actually, since we're on the subject of Let's Work, work bitch, quote unquote, became like more of like a kind of a gay, phrase. And were people really saying like work it like back in the early 80s? Like I feel like
yes, we were.
People were okay.
I
feel like this song was kind of ahead of its time as far as like telling people to work.
Yeah, we knew what he was talking about.
All right.
I guess it just didn't make its way up to Fredonia, New York till the 90s. I don't have too much to say about the song. I think it's funky as hell. Side 2 definitely takes you from one place to the next with each song.
It does. I like the line, if I could climb the walls, or if I could get you in the raw, I'd make you climb the walls.
Yeah. I like that line too.
Yeah.
You were mentioning the 12-inch version.
Oh, yeah.
He's so descriptive and such a...
I might have to go and listen to it again and really just try and get Party Up out my head.
Mm-hmm.
You were mentioning the 12-inch version, Jeremy, that there's that one part where it's like, he just like started throwing random songs that when they right before it goes back into the song and it's like controversy.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. What the fuck was that? That was like the really bad editing.
Yeah.
That's funny.
The cover of the 12-inch is pretty sexy though, isn't it? The band?
Yes.
The band.
With B-side Gotta Stop Messing About, which
I love that song.
That song could have been,
what song?
Gotta
Stop Messing About.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You could have replaced
Take Off
Ronnie
Talk to Russia.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Gotta Stop
that was
is
my point. Oh, I'm sorry. All right. So Clark said this earlier, that it's like he's really assertive in this album, but there's also this little bit of rage in him, like this punk rage too, where I think he's sort of fighting against some of that kind of disco shit from the previous albums. And he's trying to find his way. And of course, like you could see him in glam and punk, that kind of thing. But that kind of, that kind of anger just doesn't work well for his voice, and it just doesn't belong on this album. It's so weird to me.
I would definitely take Gotta Stop Messing About, even though that song sounds more Dirty Mind than Controversy to me, like in the production value. All right. Well, when Let's Work ends, we move on to a little drum machine kicking in, some dissonant keyboards.
Yeah.
We are with Annie Christian, a song about gun control. Anne, why don't you start off? Tell us how you feel about this song.
Take it away, Anne.
Anne Fairman.
All right. So I usually like songs with my name in them. I think most of us do, right? There's that, and there's some good ones, like Counting Crows has a really nice song called Anna Begins. There's been a couple songs about Anne's that are not always super positive, but this one takes the cake. Initially I thought it was like, ooh, it's going to be like kind of like Darling Nikki, it's going to be, she's a dirty girl. I'm like, I can get with this Prince. And then it's like, no. She's the Antichrist. It's not just a dirty girl, right? She's, potentially the end of the world. And so then I was like, oh, now I have to think about these lyrics because obviously, it's a metaphor.
Right.
And so, I love the song.
I do love this song. I love
wish
this song.
it weren't so heavy-handed. I think that, you know, like to me, he's super political in Sign of the Times, right? Like
Right.
super political. But yet his writing is so fucking smooth and, you know, interesting and creative, right? And, you know, uses amazing imagery. He is definitely working on his craft in this one because, you know, like his imagery is just sort of like pounding you over the head when he's like, everybody say gun control or whatever he said. And it's like, really? I can't tell if you're kidding or not. You know, like it just was it's a weird song.
Well, he's 24 when this comes out.
Yeah.
You know, so
And, you know, it wasn't just about gun control either. I mean, because the part where he's talking about the Atlanta child murders really strikes a nerve with me because, you know, in my community, it was like the Ku Klux Klan is snatching Black children and killing Black children. I remember my mother being so just protective of us at that time. And that part of the song really kind of creeps me out because I remember being scared and watching those headlines and being like, oh my God, I'm going to get lynched if I go outside and ride my bike. And so I really remember that part of the song, but also too, and this might actually be Jill Jones' influence. And I have to ask her because I mentioned to her that I wanted to write something about controversy. But the part where he's talking about, and I said she by accident because of what the point I'm going to make, where he's talking about the shooting of John Lennon. Mm-hmm. That same year, Tina Marie did the song Revolution, which is about the murder of John Lennon. And her album came out before his did.
Oh.
And so I wonder if that was Jill Jones's influence.
And Aisha, don't you feel like Revolution's one of the best songs ever?
Oh my God, yes, like, is.
I'm crying like talking about the damn song.
It's like at that age, I was 6 when that album came out, so I didn't understand the meaning of it till I got older. But just the way that she sings that song, it's so haunting. But I always wondered afterwards if that was Jill's influence because he'd known Jill at that time.
It's possible it was a factor, but the killing of John Lennon was a major pop culture and just cultural happening.
Right.
So it might have been a factor, but I wouldn't go so far as to guess it was a major influence on him doing the song.
Well, the reason I say that is because one of the lyrics strikes a chord with what's in her lyrics. And I'm like, these are similar.
Which
I wouldn't have made the connection. I have to remember. Cool. I have to sit and think of and listen to the two back to back.
Right.
But there's because her lyrics are so avant-garde in that song that you really have to decipher this is what she's talking about. And there's something that he mentions and I'm like, that sounds like Tina Marie. And remember, he had toured with Tina Marie the year before.
That's where he
while she was writing that album.
And if you read that Tina Marie song, even as a poem, just the writing is gorgeous. And Prince is tackling the same subject. His is very like primal.
Yeah. Like her starts, Penny Lane, the Piper's Gone, I saw the photograph.
Right.
I've never heard that song.
Oh my God.
You'll have to send us the link.
Yeah. What month of the year did Controversy come out?
I believe it was October.
Okay, because Lennon was killed in December of '80. So
maybe it was, yeah. And hers had come out in the early part of the year because by the end of that year, she was on the outs of Motown suing them.
And I think it's also important to listen to the Tina Marie song reading the lyrics. Because sometimes she sings it really fast. To read it as a poem, don't get me started.
What's the name of it?
Revolution.
And I'll drop it in our chat. Aisha, I'm gonna add you into our Prince chat if you're interested.
Yes, your Tina Marie chat.
Yeah. All right.
So wait, I never liked this song when I first heard it, Anti-Christian, but it's kind of like one of those things that grows on you when you think about what he's talking about. Yeah, it's about gun control. Yeah, it's about basically the theory of the Antichrist, like there's all this evil going on in the world. And then I just lost my train of thought. Crap. I just lost what I was going to say.
It'll come back. We can wait.
Let me
Does
look
Prince
at the
have any
words.
other songs like this where he's just talking and the music is so? Oh, go ahead.
So I was trying to think of what he meant by "Until you're crucified, I'll live my life in a taxi cab," and I'm thinking maybe he thought until all the evil is gone that he's just going to keep it moving, like
Not put down
like
roots.
Yeah, it doesn't feel safe.
Yeah.
waiting for the second coming, which is also in sexuality.
Right.
He loves him a taxi cab, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah,
Even more so once we get to the next album, right?
right.
We all need to start working on Jill Jones because I need her in that 1999 discussion since she's such a big part of that album. The
Yeah.
day I met her in a Starbucks in 2005, I said, all right, first of all, I need you to reenact Lady Cab Driver. So, do we all agree? I mean, Annie Christian is definitely artsy. We can say that.
Again, as a young child, I mean, recognizing about gun control, and it was big for me. I mean, I think it's a great song.
It's not something I would pull out. It's not something I would pull out and put on a mixtape, but I won't skip it when I play the Controversy album.
It definitely fits the album. Does he have any? What Prince song is even closely similar to this one?
There's a song on "Come." Is it Papa?
Oh,
yeah. Papa would probably be close. Yeah.
Okay.
Good call, Clark.
I never listened to that album.
I know.
I don't
Great.
like
It's great, but he overproduced the fuck out of it.
Yeah.
Well, that song he's talking about, his father beating him, but I don't think his father ever did. But
Maybe his stepfather.
yeah, maybe he locked him in the closet. His stepfather.
Right with Aisha's poster.
To be honest, I can't even tell you if my father spanked me. I'm pretty sure he did.
That's not the first time that I've heard people say that they put their Prince poster on the back of the door. So their parents.
The Controversy poster.
That's hilarious.
The fact that I did that and I was 10 and I knew it was bad.
Yeah.
Oh, he knew it was bad.
Yeah, he knew it was bad. That's a hot picture.
I mean, my father looks like James Evans from Good Times.
Oh,
Nostrils flared and everything when he saw that poster.
All right, so we have one song left. Side 1, the ultimate sexy masterpiece. Side 2, a good song, a bad song, a good song, a weird song, and then it ends.
All good songs.
Yeah, okay. I'm on the fence about Ryan Talk to Russia, but Jack You Off. He's going a little rockabilly. It seems like he did that with Horny Toad on the next album.
Hilarious.
yeah.
Hilarious.
Remember this one?
Broken Lonely and Crying, which wasn't released, but he performed it live on the Controversy tour because why wouldn't you?
How do you jack off a girl? Like I just
It's the same thing.
That's the same thing.
That's a different Phonogenics.
Oh, that's,
So we bring out the Orgasmatron and what's that? I can't remember the name.
And the AccuJack.
Yeah.
AccuJack. Yep,
More like Pornogenics.
that's right.
Pornogenics.
That's right.
I feel like there's some
Different
very
conversations.
intelligent examinations of sexuality on this album, and for the album to end, I feel like this is kind of like the 5th graders back from Ronnie Talk to Russia writing about sex this time.
But it's very. But I mean, that's the that's the thing. Like he goes
So
from
bad.
terrible songs, that are just. They're so like bass. That's the thing about they're very punk, right? They're not like super deep, They're very. You're gonna get that message right away, but then you get something like Jack Off or I'll Jack You Off or whatever it's called, Jack You Off, right?
Lisa's singing. Lisa's back, right? Singing the hook.
I mean, it's a great song, right? But it's also like it fits the album so well. It's so sort of sexual and gender confirming. I mean, just saying that using the term to jack you off, right? Which we tend to think of as a very sort of you jack someone's penis off, right? But I love that that he refers to it in all ways, and I'm like, You can jack me off, Prince. Obviously, you don't have to ask. It's cool.
It's one of the things that irks me about one of the things he never got due credit for was being funny, and I think this is just he's just being funny. It's just a funny song.
Okay.
It's not meant to change. You know, other songs on the album are meant to change a worldview. This is just cheap laughs, and that's okay sometimes.
There's a time and a place for cheap laughs, and apparently it's at the end of Controversy.
Yeah. He's always got this image among people that he's so like dead serious about everything, and like he's got some really funny stuff.
Well, because look at the cover image.
Yeah.
Right. That jacket was all.
This song hurts my spirit.
So why don't you like this song?
You don't like this song, Aisha?
No, I just think it is like it's such a great album, and you end it this way. It's like, really?
What would have been a better song to end it with?
Hell, I'd rather have Purple Rain at this point. And that's not one of my favorite songs at all.
No, I mean, like from the album, from this album, what would have been a better ending song?
Let's Work. I think Let's Work would have been good.
Yeah, Let's Work would have been a good ending.
And with that bass line.
But this is just like, hearing it was just kind of like, where's the next song? Because I feel incomplete. I feel like there should be something else. You've made all these great statements, and this is how you end it?
Jacking
Really?
somebody off is a great statement. I think.
That does end it if you do a good job.
That literally called a happy ending?
Yeah, but I was just like, I
We're
need,
here all night, ladies and gentlemen.
I need something else. I'm not getting something else. I'm going to listen to Tina Marie.
Melissa, what do you think of this one?
It's okay. It's not one of my favorites, but it's okay. And you're right. It does have that. It's kind of like he wrote this and Horny Toad around the same time.
Right.
This sounds so similar.
Now, I do like Delirious. I know we're skipping ahead, Elm, but do you all like Delirious?
Love it.
Sure. Yeah.
I just like, nope, count me out.
Like I said before, the rockabilly style for him just didn't fit with me. I was like, this is a poor Elvis impersonation that you're doing, and it's not working for you.
No.
If you're going to be like anybody from that era, be like Chuck Berry. Just don't do this.
Being on little girls.
Oh, yeah. I did watch that video. Did you guys watch that?
Yeah. But the fact of the matter is, like, I'm like, at this point, you might as well just do a cover of Hang On Little Susie. I just can't. The rockabilly style just never worked. And
And again, think of what black artists were doing rockabilly. I mean, nobody.
Right. Nobody.
Prince was like in this album. Prince decided to just give you a grab bag of like all styles, all genres, all subject matters.
Right.
Lyrics for the bedroom, lyrics for the head, lyrics for getting head. I mean, it's like.
But you know what though? If he did rockabilly, if he wanted to do rockabilly, and he did it all together with songs that worked with each other, he might have been able to pull it off a lot better than he was to stick these random songs in these albums that were just that seemed so whole, because they seem so out of place when you take them as a whole album. It's like, wait, this feels like it doesn't fit.
I disagree.
Well,
but
Yeah.
The
That's a
first
beautiful
two albums.
Out those other two.
Go ahead.
When he screams "yeah" and rips into that guitar solo, man, that's a highlight on the album for me.
Yeah.
I love that
I
moment.
mean, Prince, having a career on defying genres and not wanting to be put in a box, by him taking the song off to put it on the rockabilly album that he's going to create, is putting himself in a box. He's not going to do that.
Yep.
When you get a Prince album, you're going to get, look at Dirty Mind. I mean, you have a country song, you've got funk, you've got,
Yeah.
Sister.
I mean, I'm not saying put it on a rockabilly album necessarily. I mean, Lionel Richie was able to pull off country, R&B, and funk and all of that in one album, and reggae in one album, and the songs work together. I think that if he was going to do rockabilly, pick a song that worked with the other songs. These just stick out to me like sore thumbs.
That's the beautiful thing about music.
I think it fits perfectly.
Yeah. I
There's
disagree.
never a right or wrong. That's the beautiful thing about
There
music.
always is a right or a wrong. But
So my
Let's
story
again,
about
I'm in the
this
middle.
song-
I'm kind of in the middle. Like, I don't hate it and I don't love it. So I'm in the middle between y'all. Go ahead, Clark.
So my story about this song, a couple of years ago, for whatever reason, it was stuck in my head, and I got in an elevator at work and was kind of like softly whistling it to myself, just the tune. And a vice president got in the elevator and said, "That's a bouncy little tune. What's the name of that song?"
Oh my God.
Oh.
I just
Tell me
said,
it was Joe Biden.
it's some old Prince song. I don't remember the name, sir. This is my floor. I have to get off right now.
Right.
And we must mention
Yeah,
that this is the first time he used the U stylized as the U, right?
Right.
Yeah, I think so.
You're right.
That's important in the Prince universe.
It is
Yeah.
important. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
This
So
album felt familiar to me. Like it felt like this is the Prince that I love to hear.
Now I agree with Clark that it was the lyrics are humorous if you read the lyrics without listening to the song. I just don't like the music part. The lyrics are fine. It's just the music I don't like.
ding, 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 ding.
The share
And he's
voice.
got that big showbiz ending. Dun, 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 dun,
Yes.
dun,
Yeah, yeah.
dun. Yeah, I
Yes.
love that.
I like my show tunes on the music theater stage.
That's how I feel about certain Prince songs too. Yeah. Yeah.
I love it. Okay, so we're gonna do the. I can't even talk. This has been exhausting because I'm laughing the whole damn time. Okay, you know there's a lot of Prince podcasts, but ours is special because we're funny.
We are funny.
Okay, we're gonna all go around the circle and rank controversy on a scale of 1 to 10. That's how we always end the episode. So we'll start with Anne. Controversy scale of 1 to 10.
7.
Aisha,
I give it an 8.
Jeffrey,
Perfect 10. I would say that's the first Prince album, maybe. Oh no, Dirty Mind maybe would have gotten a perfect 10. Yeah,
Melissa,
Dirty Mind, because I missed that discussion, but
Oh.
yeah, I think this album's a perfect 10.
8.
Clark,
8.5.
and I'm gonna go with a 9 because I think he still has a little bit higher to climb from here. So I'm just leaving a
Yeah,
little.
I agree with that assessment.
Yeah.
I mean, is this my favorite Prince album of all time? No, but do I think there's not a song I'd skip on it?
And it's an essential part of the catalog.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, 9.5. Okay.
Oh,
9.75. Okay.
You're becoming Pitchfork.
We are.
Well, I'm going to pause it so we can keep talking for a moment. But before we sign off with the viewers, I just want to thank my friends for coming to talk about Prince. I had so much fun. I love nothing more than debating music. There's no right or wrong. Except when it comes to side one. We can all agree that that is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
And we will see you next month, hopefully with Jill Jones, because I want her to be there when we talk about 1999. Are you all ready?
I'm
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Yeah.
I will be
so
here.
excited.
Yes. And thank you to my Patreon subscribers, and we will see you all next month.